Quarterback back at the 5, steps up, gets drilled. Yes, sir, he gets mashed. And that is going to be the ball game. 6, 5, 4, 3. They can't snap it. They can't stop it. They can't win it. Alabama wins the ball game.
Darian Thomas, linebacker, Alabama.
He was a nightmare for people that had to try to prepare for him because he had unique skills.
Just go get the quarterback. I felt sorry for some of those poor tackles that came in and had to go against him because they didn't realize what they were getting themselves into.
Hey, baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs, not some fun.
John, I got to do better than this.
Lights out.
Sacking the quarterback is just like you devastate a city, or you cream a multitude of people. I mean, it's just like you put all the offensive players in one bag, and I just take a baseball bat and beat on the bag. So each time he came over there, I tried to tear his damn head off.
Let's play some football. Let's play some football.
The pressure is on. This is Off the Edge on Tide 100.9.
Focus on what you want to do, what you want to accomplish. Think about that. Don't think about how you feel, how tired you are, how hot it is. You got to push yourself on the field like when you're playing football.
It's my honor to present the National Championship Trophy to Coach Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide.
To me, this is the ultimate team. All these guys bought into everything they needed to do to be the best players that they could be. There's more togetherness on this team than almost any team that we've ever had. And they had to overcome and persevere so much adversity through this season, and they've done it magnificently. And I'm so proud of this group for what they've been able to accomplish and going undefeated and winning the national championship.
Streaming live on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and the Tide 100.9 app. Here is your host of Off the Edge, Jacob Harrison.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome into Off the Edge, Tide 100.9, your home for Alabama Crimson Tide Sports. I am Jacob Harrison. Bryant Horn across the glass. Mason Woods hanging out with us. It's a great day to talk about football, and we'll do that for the next, 55 minutes. Overall, got a lot to get into, right? First fall scrimmage on Saturday. We got some Nick Saban audio. We'll work that into the conversation. We got the NFL Top 100 breakdown of Henry To'oTo'o. Did some film study on him last night. Pretty impressed. There's still plenty of room for improvement. We'll get into that. Bryant Horn has the high school preview. High school football kicks off this week. Kerry Clark and I will be here for Friday Night Lights from 6 to 9, 7 to 9. Well, I'll figure it out. I got to talk to Joe after this, but after the game with Ryan Fowler, we'll be on the air. It's 6 to 9. I remember now. 6 to 9, 1 hour previews, Alabama Crimson Tide football, high school football. Kerry Clark and I will break it all down. Friday Night Lights this Friday, 6 to 9 p.m., covering all the local high school games. We'll also get into Bryant Horn's preview. Got a lot of good games to start the season off this weekend in West Alabama. But first, breaking news. We just got the AP Top 25 poll. Dive into that in just a second. I do have to remind you the show streams live on the Tide 109 app, available on Android and Apple devices, free to you in the App Store or the Google Play Store. Just download that. Enjoy all of our written and on-air content. You can also find this show on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Off the Edge 109. I'd greatly appreciate subscribers there, likes, shares, retweets, whatever you got. Greatly appreciate that as well. Alabama Vintage at alabamavtg.com. Boy, I got to put up a picture of this thing. I went and saw Charlie Friday after the show and picked up that Lynn Swan jersey. And oh my goodness, it is gorgeous. And you can find great items just like that at Alabama Vintage, 2210 University Boulevard, across from City Hall in the heart of downtown T-Town. Alabama items of all kinds, whether you need shoes, hats, commemorative jerseys, or commemorative shirts and jerseys, I should say. Growing selection of jerseys, growing selection of shoes, and an incredible hat wall with all sorts of memorabilia lining the walls as well. Alabama Vintage at Alabama VTG on the Instagram account to see the new items that are coming in. You can also check out the brand ambassadors for 15% off your order at AlabamaVTG.com. So, AP top 25 poll just dropped short while ago. Alabama sits at number 1. No surprise. About 80 points ahead of Oklahoma, who sits at number 2. Clemson rounds out the top 3. No surprise there for me at all. Oklahoma, I feel, is the most deserving team at number 2. They've got the Heisman favorite. They've got what we have heard to be a improved defense. They've got all the weapons on offense. Lincoln Riley knows what he's doing on that side of the ball. And with Clemson, we've seen DJ Uiagalelei. We know what that defense brings to the table every single year. There are question marks around Clemson as well as Alabama and Ohio State, no doubt about it. But you know what Dabo, you know what Brett Venables, you know we've seen from DJ Uiagalelei what he's capable of. I have no qualms about the top 3. Ohio State in at 4, Georgia 5, Texas A&M at 6. Iowa State at 7. That's the way to go there as well. No complaints here. I like what Ohio State's bringing back. I like what I've seen out of CJ Stroud. Georgia, if JT Daniels is the truth, you know what the defense always is under Kirby Smart. It's good. There are questions, however, and understandably so, about this wide receiving core for the Bulldogs. Once again, good offensive line, one of the best running back cores in all of football. But with Pickens out for most of the year, you're still going to have some question marks for the Bulldogs. A&M finishing the season strong last year. 6 might be a tad bit high. I probably would have Iowa State over Texas A&M simply because the sample size on Haynes King, who's expected to be the starter for the Aggies, not big enough to determine whether or not he's going to be able to continue the upward trajectory that Jimbo Fisher's Aggies have been on. Iowa State, though, big fan of what they've got going on. Cincinnati at 8, Notre Dame, North Carolina closes out the top 10. I would venture to say North Carolina should probably be higher than Notre Dame, should probably be higher than Cincinnati, but it is what it is. Here's where it starts to get a little bit more interesting. Your first Pac-12 team is Oregon at 11, Wisconsin at 12, Florida, Miami, and USC close out the top 15. I think it's a little low for Florida, right? I mean, not everybody can be a top 10 team. I get it. Not everybody can. And I hate Notre Dame. I'm so biased in that regard. I probably wouldn't have Notre Dame in the top 15. But I don't know about Wisconsin being higher than Florida. I sure don't know about Oregon being higher than Florida. And like I said, Notre Dame. It seems a little low for Florida. But when the Alabama Crimson Tide takes on Miami in Atlanta at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium there, Miami, the Hurricanes, will be number 14. So higher ranking matchup, not a top 10 matchup, but a top 15 matchup nonetheless. Number 1 Alabama versus number 14 Miami in Atlanta, Georgia. 19 days away from Alabama Crimson Tide football. Like USC at 15, 16, a little bit more reasonable than what we saw in the coaches poll for the LSU Bengal Tigers. Too many question marks. I like Max Johnson. I think he's the better quarterback. The situation has played out in a way that you wouldn't find favorable with Miles Brennan, of course, breaking his left arm. Nonetheless, I do think they have a better quarterback in now, but there's still just too many questions. I can't, just because of tradition's sake, say that on paper I'm ready to believe in the LSU Tigers again, not to mention all the other stuff going on around campus as they try to correct those things, as the NCAA investigates and so many others do as well. Indiana at 17. I like it. Iowa, Penn State, Washington closes out the top 20. And I like this. Texas, the Fighting Steve Sarkisians, the Texas Longhorns, the future of the SEC, right? There you go, Brian. That's it. Horns down. Horns down. The Texas Longhorns at 21, followed by Coastal Carolina, the Fighting Mullets, right? Rally behind the Chanticleers. Louisiana comes in at 23. Man, Louisiana is expected to have a incredible year under Billy Napier there. They've got the quarterback. They've got a lot of pieces. I'm excited to see what Louisiana does. We got 2 teams from the Sun Belt Fun Belt in the top 25, and neither of them are Appalachian State. You know, Appalachian State is just outside, right? They've got to be. Utah at 24 and Arizona State rounding out the top 25. I don't expect Arizona State to hang around there for very long unless Jaden Daniels is really the truth and they can overcome things. Couple of teams that are shockingly omitted here, right? Ole Miss, TCU, Michigan, Northwestern, BYU. Yeah.
BYU makes sense. I feel like Zach Wilson was their team last year.
Oh yeah, no doubt. But that is still a well-coached football team. And you know, they've got a lot going for them, especially off the back of having Zach Wilson. How many receiving votes did Auburn get? Have you seen it yet? You're not, no spoilers here. How many votes do you think Auburn got to be in the top 25, Bryant?
Like 20 something?
Close. They got 32. Auburn had 32, which was less than Liberty, who got 36. TCU had 40. Ole Miss and Oklahoma State 106 and 107 respectively. So I like the AP poll a lot more than I like the coaches poll. I thought a few things were just a little bit out of whack. Mason Woods will have the coverage there for you at Tide109.com. But there we have it, man. Less than 3 weeks away from Alabama football, 2 weeks away from college football starting with week 0. Man, it's so close you can taste it. Preseason football, build the TV waves, the digital waves, whatever you want to call it in today's day and age of television with football. But we had preseason football on TV all weekend as well. I actually didn't watch that much preseason football this weekend. Had a pretty busy weekend, but no doubt about it, we got to see a lot of debuts. But the biggest thing happening for the Crimson Tide was their first fall scrimmage took place on Saturday. We'll take a break here in just a bit, but a few things. Bryce Young having 3 touchdowns. We did have positive feedback on Trey Sanders and an injury update on Kendall Randolph. All that and more right here on Off the Edge. Tide 100.9, your home for Alabama Crimson Tide sports.
The real estate market is always tough. But this market, it's unlike anything we've ever seen. When the average home stays on the market just 24 days and houses routinely go for more than the listing price, who you work with matters. Realtors have the expertise, local knowledge, and personal touch to give you a competitive advantage throughout the entire home buying process. And that's something an ordinary agent could never do. So make sure your agent is a realtor. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors. That's who we are.
Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. Views Alto is the vape as unique as the back roads you ride. With Views by You, you can choose from 4 colors, 3 flavors, 3 nicotine levels, and infinite wrap designs. Make Views Alto a vape that is yours. In store now. Discover more at Views.com. Views. Charge beyond. Vapor products, underage sale prohibited. Website and offers restricted to age 21 and over. Tobacco consumers.
Touchdown! Alabama wins!
The Alabama football countdown clock is driven by Crawford Insurance, Tuscaloosa's low-cost auto insurer. Call 752-6489 for a free quote today.
Roll Tide! Roll Tide!
There are 19 days until Alabama football.
Dominate!
Benito's line cook just threw in his kitchen towel.
This order needs to go out right now.
He needs to find help before his customers are left waiting.
So sorry. We'll be right with you. Who's got table 6?
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. With Indeed Instant Match, we immediately show you quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed meet your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Partially sunny this afternoon with developing showers and thunderstorms in scattered spots, the high 87. For tonight and tomorrow, mostly cloudy, some rain at times, maybe a few thunderstorms as well. The low tonight 70, the high tomorrow at 84. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 83 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Follow Off the Edge on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube for live streams and instant analysis. Off the Edge with Jacob Harrison continues.
We are back here on Off the Edge, Tide 100.9. If you're a big fan of Quentin Williams, he was officially activated off the PUP list today, so he's mixing into practice with the New York Jets alongside CJ Mosley, who had some colorful things to say about anybody overlooking the Jets this year. So maybe we'll get a look at Quentin Williams alongside CJ Mosley when they take on the Packers this Saturday at 3:30. Also, since I kind of just said it, Coach Ryan Day has kind of made it almost official. Ohio State is not named a starting quarterback, but the general consensus is that it will be CJ Stroud. Well, according to The Athletic, Ryan Day has said that Stroud is making a good case for the QB1 job. So all indications are pointing towards the fact that CJ Stroud will be the starting quarterback for the Ohio State Buckeyes. So what we're going to do in this segment is we're going to, talk about some of the things that we learned from the scrimmage. We'll play some Nick Saban audio for you as well. Reports were that Bryce Young threw 3 touchdowns. However, Saban did say in his analysis of Bryce Young that the offense around him didn't always do the best job of supporting him as a supportive cast. But that being said, Saturday, if you were following the Twitter machine, you surely heard plenty of good things about Trey Sanders and how he looked. And I'm starting to get the impression, and I almost backed off. That's why I put the poll up to see what people wanted to see. But I almost broke down Trey Sanders instead of Henry To'oTo'o for today's show because of the things that we had heard and because I'm kind of excited. Like, as a Steelers fan, I was a little bit, spoiled with the way that Le'Veon Bell played. And I love the way that Le'Veon Bell played because of the patience, right? And the explosiveness and the diversity with which he could bring to the game. He could prove to be a powerful back, but he was also an incredibly elusive back, catching out of the backfield, all those different sort of things. That gets me excited when you're a truly balanced running back, but you bring something even more special than guys like Adrian Peterson brought. And not saying, that these guys are better than Adrian Peterson, but just the overall balance and still bringing a higher skill level to the table. That's very, very exciting to me. So what we'll do here, though, is we'll play the opening segment from Nick Saban following the scrimmage and take a look at what he had to say, what his overall impressions were of his football team after the first fall scrimmage. Here is Nick Saban.
I would say that for a first scrimmage, there was a lot of good hitting out there. I think it was obviously a difficult circumstance. This has been a difficult week. I think, in some ways, because of the new rules we have to protect players, maybe the players were a little less ready to scrimmage today than you typically would be because of the number of days that we've been able to have in pads. But saying all that to say this, I think, the opportunity that everybody has to look at what they did today, assess, kind of self-assess where they are, what they have to do to get better. There was a lot of good things out there, and there was a lot of mistakes, but that's probably, what you expect in the first scrimmage, especially for young players. We did have some of the young players who, made some plays out there today, which I think is, a real positive for them. And, we really haven't tried to establish, depth charts. And I know that that's really something that's really important to you guys. But we're trying to give everybody an opportunity right now so that they do have a chance to compete and play and kind of see who responds the best in difficult circumstances. I mean, today's a difficult circumstance. We've been practicing every day and for all week. And it was, something challenge to overcome the adversity relative to the circumstances and the condition. And, some of the older players that are more experienced probably do that a little better than others, but I think it's a really good learning experience for some of the other guys. So, all in all, we know we have a lot of work to do to improve as a team, and we're going to continue to do that. That's why we got to practice. And I think the players have to be very committed to, sort of a relentless standard of excellence that this team wants to aspire to. And that's going to come from every individual player on the team wanting to do that and doing the things they need to do it. So all in all, I'm not disappointed in where we are. When you watch the film, sometimes you learn different, but I'm sure every player will have the opportunity to sort of evaluate where they are and work hard to get better.
I think there's a little bug put in my ear that maybe Saban was a little bit disappointed with the practice. I don't think it's Saban was disappointed with the practice. I think it's that the circumstances, right? Like you go out for a real deal scrimmage after one day of padded practice, right? Like that's kind of a little whack. That makes it difficult to evaluate. That makes it difficult to determine what's really going on. And if you have ones-on-ones, it can be difficult for an offense that's still learning to gel together to go up against an experienced defense, right? So I don't think that necessarily that's the case, but I will say I do get the impression that at the very least, there's a lot to be learned about this football team moving forward. And not only to mention that is the fact that, this is a time period to learn about the Alabama Crimson Tide moving forward as well. Let's hear what Nick Saban had to say about his quarterback, though, who reportedly had a great game, but Saban was a little bit deterred by, the supporting cast.
I think Bryce did a good job today. I think we, have to play well around Bryce. At times today, I didn't think, maybe we did as good a job of that as we need to. It's all 11 guys. It's the offensive line. It's the receivers. It's all 11 guys so that he'll have, more opportunities to make plays. But what I think when he had opportunities today, he did a really good job. So, I was pleased with his performance. I'm sure if you ask him, he'll be the first one to say, he's looking forward to working to, try to improve and, improve the production overall in terms of our execution on offense. And that's what's going to make us better.
No doubt about it. And really and truly, when you're evaluating quarterbacks is hard. Like, it's hard for everybody. But when the supporting cast is just as inexperienced as he is, that can make for an even more difficult evaluation. And then you talk about the defense and the depth of this defense, right? Saban himself saying that, there's 8 or 9 deep on the defensive line, not counting the edge rushers, right? Which, first of all, hey, I said that, I'm pretty proud that I wasn't over exaggerating. But it makes it difficult to evaluate. But at the end of the day, you're still talking about a quarterback that reportedly had 3 touchdowns. So there's something to glean there, right? And here's the thing is there's a lot of expectations that do need to be tempered just a tad, right? Going into this Miami game, and this isn't me backing off of Bryce Young, but going into this Miami game, you have to understand this is the first start against the top 15 team, the number 14 ranked team in the country, the Miami Hurricanes, where they're known to blitz, they're known to bring pressure, they're known to play pretty solid defense, even through the horrendous years between over the past few decades, right? So there's still something there where you still have to temper your expectations just a slight bit, right? I do think Bryce Young is going to come out and he's going to be impressive. I do think he's going to come out with that Johnny Manziel level of energy and style of play on the football field, strictly on the football field. It's really annoying that I have to stress that every single time. But there's still plenty to be excited about, but we do have to temper just a tad bit because of the supporting cast. See, and that's the thing, I constantly hear about Bryce Young. Well, he didn't impress me last year. There's nothing that I could take away from. Well, my guy, in the Missouri game, he was playing with backup offensive linemen in the first game of the year off a COVID season. Okay. He's under a lot of pressure. I don't know if you've ever been 6 foot tall under a lot of pressure from SEC defenses at 18 years old.
Couldn't be me.
That's not an easy situation, right? 5-star or not. I'm not making excuses. Just talking about what the situation is. Situational football matters in analysis and in evaluation as much as anything else. You can't just take everything at face value. That's why when you're watching preseason games, you can't just be like, oh, well, he did all that against the third string. Well, no, duh. It's the situation. But you still have to see how he performs against the third string or the second string or the whoever's, right? How does Mac Jones's ball placement look? Sure, the second string wide receiver didn't catch it, but what was the ball placement like? What were the intentions of the play? Did he execute the game plan? All those things go into the analysis and evaluations of football players, not just the stat sheet. Because if I read off Jalen Hurts' stat sheet in the first 2 series of the preseason game against the Steelers, you'd think he had a terrible game. He looked incredible. If you go on Twitter right now, you'll see that Jalen Hurts threw 2 interceptions in 7-on-7s today. But if you overlook the fact or ignore the fact that both of those ricocheted off the hands of his receivers, you don't have the full picture. You need the full picture. And guess what we don't get at Alabama scrimmages?
The full picture.
Never. Absolutely never. So we're analyzing in the dark here. So you've got to temper yourself just a tad bit, but there's still something there to take away. There's still something there to feel excited about. Not everything is doom and gloom. Not everything is terrifying. You know, Nick Saban says that Kendall Randolph limps off with an ankle injury. You can't freak out, right? Like, he's okay. Like, he's going to be okay, right? Like, we still have to wait for more information. Who's going to be the right tackle that steps into his spot? You know, we'll get a little bit of a glimpse of that today with Randolph being out. And that's certain, you know, that's one of the benefits of the situation, but you can't just look at everything from Randolph last year and apply it into Randolph this year and be like, oh, well, he didn't always play the best last year. Because I was not impressed with him in the Missouri game. But you watch him in practice today, and he looks like a guy that's got all the technical ability in the world. All the experience is built up into something very, very special, right? So you've got to bring everything to the forefront when you're looking and analyzing everything. And right now we don't have the full picture. But when you piece together everything that Nick Saban has said, you get little inclinations, you get little pieces and bites there that you can really kind of piece together a little bit and try to understand where he's coming from and get a clearer idea of what's going on with this team right now.
Yeah, and like I think I said this during the break, but I mean, people forget it's a scrimmage. You're playing against this. You're playing against your team. You know, I use the example that Zach Wilson throws however many picks during a scrimmage, and then he goes out and has a nice preseason game. Bryce Young is playing against the Alabama defense, who we know is going to be outstanding this year. The Alabama defense is going to be great. So if Bryce Young doesn't look amazing in a scrimmage against one of the best defenses in the nation, you can't overreact, because in all honesty, it's probably going to be one of the best defenses he faces all year. It's his own, So like it's stupid to form opinions from a scrimmage that nobody was even able to see. There was no media availability.
Yeah, it makes it difficult. It certainly does. We'll take a break. 205-342-9904, the phone number. Join the show. Get your opinions in, your thoughts in, your questions in. We'll talk to Corey from Trustville, who's actually down in Orange Beach today, following in the footsteps of the great and mighty Ryan Fowler. Your phone calls, though, a breakdown of Henry Toto still to come here on Off the Edge, Tide 100.9, your home for Alabama sports.
You and your phone have been through a lot this past year. It's been your lifeline to the world. And now some big wireless company is telling you got to buy a new phone from them and sign their contract? They don't control you. With TracFone Wireless, you can keep the phone, number, and network you already have. Already got a 5G phone? Keep that too, because TracFone runs on America's best networks now with 5G nationwide. Plus, we've got unlimited talk and text smartphone plans starting at just $20. TracFone Wireless. Now you're in control. 5G nationwide access requires a 5G capable device. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
Don't miss a play at the Sportsbook at Pearl River Resort. Your front row seat to all the action. Place bets on all professional and most college sports at the counter, kiosk, or on your phone. Then catch the game on one of our 20 big screens from the comfort of the newly remodeled Timeout Lounge. Plus, the PRR Sports app gives you access to live, in-play sports betting. Sportsbook at Pearl River Resort. Be more than a fan. Be a player. Must be 21.
Warning. This product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. Views Alto is the vape as unique as the back roads you ride. With Views by You, you can choose from 4 colors, 3 flavors, 3 nicotine levels, and infinite wrap designs. Make Views Alto a vape that is yours. In store now. Discover more at Views.com. Views. Charge beyond. Vapor products, underage sale prohibited. Website and offers restricted to age 21 and over tobacco consumers.
The real estate market is always tough. But this market, it's unlike anything we've ever seen. When the average home stays on the market just 24 days and houses routinely go for more than the listing price, who you work with matters. Realtors have the expertise, local knowledge, and personal touch to give you a competitive advantage throughout the entire home buying process. And that's something an ordinary agent could never do. So make sure your agent is a realtor. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors. That's who we are.
You're listening to Off the Edge on Tide 100.9.
That guitar riff sounds like a breakup. This is the 6th time Alabama has been named to the preseason AP poll as for more than any other time, or for more than any other program since Nick Saban was brought on in Alabama. That's a juggernaut. That's insane. 205-342-9904 Off the Edge. I'm Jacob Harrison. Having a lot of fun today, trying to break down what we can from the first scrimmage. We'll break down Henry To'otaho here in just a bit, but we'll go out to the phone lines. Welcome in Corey to the show. Corey from Trustville down at Orange Beach. Corey, have you been parasailing yet? How's it going, man?
Hey, Jacob, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing all right, man. Trying to make it through on a Monday.
Yeah, no parasailing because it's double red flag down here.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you got a hurricane coming.
Yeah, there's a hurricane, man. Fred is on your way.
Well, it's okay. It's actually going to dodge us. It's just cloudy out here, but we're okay. It actually feels great out here. It's just cloudy, but we're having a good time down here.
I hear you, man. What's on your mind with Alabama football?
Well,
Kendall Randolph, right?
Well, I'm glad he's okay.
Yeah.
Spring foot, hopefully he'll be okay. Be back in time for Miami. But a couple of things I want to know. How do you think the special teams did as far as field goals and punting?
Well, we've only got what Nick Saban said. But he talked about the Australian punter, said that he did a good job, said that the job is between two guys. So whether it's between this Australian punter, who's a legitimate punter, not a rugby style punter, or Jack Martin or Ty Pirine or whoever else, that's something that we'll have to continue to monitor. Special teams is not something that's either pressing or really visible at practice. So when we go to practice tonight, we'll keep an eye out, see who's kind of doing what. But what I'm most interested in on special teams, more so than the kicking, because that's one of those situations where Alabama is sometimes good enough to overcome the problems that have been there. Now the clutch situations have always been a little bit different, but I'm more interested in who's going to be returning and who's going to be playing those key roles. I've talked about Christian Story as somebody that I want to see contribute on coverage teams and do some good there. You know what I'm saying? So I'm more interested in the broad scope of the special teams. The punter, whoever's the best punter is going to win the job. We know that Will Reichert is going to do his thing. That A-Day was an anomaly. When you're in the press box and he starts missing those kicks and everybody's saying, well, he was perfect in every other scrimmage. Not to mention he went 98 for 98 last year. I've got no stress about Will Reichert either. And the punter situation is, it's the same thing it's been for the past few years, and Alabama survived that.
As far as the scrimmage itself, Saturday, I think, like you said, the expectations of, well, not the expectations, but what we saw, Reichert is going up against arguably one of, if not the best defenses he'll see all season. And plus, I think Dirty Harmony, I asked him and he said, I think 3 of the 5 offensive linemen didn't even play. I mean, I think it was Evan Neal and Chris Owens didn't participate. And then Kendall Randolph had a sprained ankle, so that Bryce Young didn't even have his offensive line out there really to protect him against the likes of Will Anderson, Chris Allen, and defensive line and such. So he didn't have a full deck of cards at his disposal. So,
well, that's if he's going against the ones the entire scrimmage, which I doubt is really the case. When he's going against twos out there, and you're talking about Nick Saban has this kind of depth on the defensive line where he's saying we've got 7 or 8 or 8 or 9 guys. Well, you can look at every single position on defense that's like that. I mean, looking at Chris Braswell and Drew Sanders, on the edges, what they bring to the backups there, and King Makuta and Dallas Turner have played well from what I've seen in practices too. You go out to the middle linebackers. There's depth there. There's depth at corner. There's depth at safety. There's depth everywhere on this defense. So even if he's not playing the ones, he's still playing a lot of guys that have that provide depth for this team, but also have a lot of experience for this team too. So all of that, it kind of encompasses itself. Whereas the offense, yeah, sure, the offensive line is where all the experience is, but when you're missing a few key guys or a few key guys go down with an injury or whatever the situation might be, that can be a little bit more daunting for a sophomore quarterback who's taking over as the starter, having to throw to these wide receivers who don't have a lot of experience either with him or at all. In the running back core being, so diverse and, having to switch guys in and out all the time. All those situations kind of play into themselves. It's why Nick Saban stressed so much that the cast around Bryce Young didn't play quite up to par with the way that Bryce Young himself was playing. And honestly, when you've got a quarterback that is as dynamic as Bryce Young is, where he can do a lot off script, he can get the job done by himself, he can create opportunities for his team, then that honestly brings my stress level down. That brings my pressure level down. As a guy that's willing to put the team on his back and can get it done until the team catches up with him. That's a positive for me.
So there was no red flags for you coming out of the scrimmage as far as on offense, in your opinion?
No, I mean it's annoying to have an injury at the one position where we don't know who the starter is going to be. That even the guy who wins the job out of camp and plays against Miami might not hold on to the job. So for it to be Kendall Randolph to be the only injury that we know about coming out, that's a little that's an annoyance. But that said, that also means at practice this week, until Kendall Randolph is good or he's back, or unless he's back today, you get a better idea of what Latham and George are doing and those sorts of things. So, or who else might be available for that rotation to figure out who the best guy is to fit in with the other. Because at the end of the day, as I've said throughout the off season, knowing that Chris Owens is the center, knowing that Evan Neal is the left tackle is a big comfort, because those are the two most important positions. You know what Emil Ekiyor brings as far as a right guard, and you know that Javion Cohen's is the left guard. That all kind of settles it down to just focusing on that one position. So no big red flags for me out of this one.
What about someone like Kendra Blackshire?
I haven't heard it much about him, to be honest. When I've looked at those inside linebackers, it's usually been the same 4 guys who are part of that main rotation. And then I've got to look and, I got to move on to somebody else.
I'm just saying, because he was a big time recruit coming out of high school. And
oh yeah, no doubt.
I'm not saying he was going to do anything special this year. I'm saying you just never know, he might pop or something. But I tell you what, I think I'm not saying we overestimated, but underestimated. But Henry Toa coming to Alabama is going to be a big asset. Whether he starts or not, he's definitely going to play a lot in this defense. And let's just say he doesn't start, for example, you'll see him on packages, and whether he blitzes or plays coverage, you'll see him in packages. And if he does start, it's just going to add more benefits to Alabama's defense, because he already knows the scheme of what Jeremy Pruitt ran, and you combine that with what Nick Saban can add to his knowledge. So it's like I said, it's a big asset for Alabama.
No doubt about it. And that's why I'm going to break him down here in just a little bit. And his leadership is no doubt his biggest trait, followed by his closing speed and his explosiveness. When he reads a play and he's got a straight line to the ball carrier, man, he is dangerous. There's a few things he's got to work on, but at the same time, this is a guy going from sophomore on a really bad team and having to take that leadership responsibility right out of the gate to being a junior on a very good team that's going to be able to just use his athleticism as well as his leadership to greater capabilities. I'm very excited for what Henry brings to the squad, and no doubt about it. I mean, when you look at that entire defense, I mean, the depth, the athleticism, all the great players that encompass that thing. No matter what question marks the nation might have about the offense, or what questions the fan base might have about the offense, that defense is going to be, a saving grace until that offense does catch up. Even if it's in game one, it'll be a saving grace to really keep Alabama hanging around in those tighter games. I know there's a lot more tougher games on this schedule than in years past. Corey, we appreciate it, man. We'll break down Henry next.
Good talk to you, Jacob. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. That's Corey from Trustville in Orange Beach. Henry to O, the breakdown up next here on Off the Edge. Tide 100.9, your home for Alabama Crimson Tide sports.
Benito's line cook just threw in his kitchen towel.
This order needs to go out right now.
He needs to find help before his customers are left waiting.
So sorry. We'll be right with you. Who's got table 6?
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. With Indeed Instant Match, we immediately show you quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed meet your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
The Alabama football countdown clock is driven by Crawford Insurance, Tuscaloosa's low-cost auto insurer. Call 752-6489 for a free quote today.
Roll Tide! Roll Tide!
There are 19 days until Alabama football.
Dominate! Don't miss a play at the Sportsbook at Pearl River Resort. Your front row seat to all the action. Place bets on all professional and most college sports at the counter, kiosk, or on your phone. Then catch the game on one of our 20 big screens from the comfort of the newly remodeled Timeout Lounge. Plus, the PRR Sports app gives you access to live, in-play sports betting. Sportsbook at Pearl River Resort. Be more than a fan. Be a player. Must be 21.
Harry's back.
Can I get your attention? I like it when you smile.
Time to play. Harry Connick Jr. and his band.
It was great fun.
Performing songs from across his career.
One of those things.
Harry Connick Jr. Friday, August 27th, Tuscaloosa Amphitheater. Reserved seats are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. Don't miss this very special engagement with Harry Connick Jr. and his 7-piece band. Time to play, part of the Coca-Cola Concert Series.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Partially sunny this afternoon with developing showers and thunderstorms in scattered spots, the high 87. For tonight and tomorrow, mostly cloudy, some rain at times, maybe a few thunderstorms as well. The low tonight 70, the high tomorrow at 84. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 83 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
You're listening to Off the Edge on Tide 100.9.
We keep ESPN on in the studio just in case, gotta love they're talking about the AP poll, and they just used a highlight of Jamison Williams for the Ohio State Buckeyes benefit. It happens. It happens, right? We just
they were also showing Master Teague, which, might I add, what an awesome name.
What a great name.
I love that name. What a great name.
I mean, it's not Max Johnson or anything, but no, that's great. That's great. Hey, if you see Mac Jones with a brace on his left knee, don't stress out. He's not hurt. Nothing happened. He is doing it for protective reasons. Gotta say though, I was excited to see how all of those rookie quarterbacks did play, and it was good to see that they all played well, right? I know, first of all, got a little too excited there about Trey Lance just because of an 80-yard touchdown. Beautiful play, great pass, incredible ball placement. But his stats didn't look super great either. There were a handful of drops too, but Trevor Lawrence played well. Justin Fields played out of his mind. Mac Jones played well. So Zach Wilson also was a surprise, played well. So nice to see some of those guys, do their thing and play well and get the job done. No doubt about it. So let's talk about Henry To'oTo'o. I really, really like what this guy brings to the table. 6'2", 225, incredibly athletic, gets the job done. Fast learner, incredible leadership skills, doesn't make the same mistake twice. But I will say, he's not infallible, right? That there are pieces to his game. Like when you see a lot of these Tennessee fans who, talk trash or indifferent about him leaving or say he's overrated or whatever, I'm not saying that they're right at all. They're not. I'm saying that they're negative people who only saw his negative plays, right? Because he's not a perfect football player, right? Nobody is. Will Anderson gets blocked. Bryce Young throws interceptions. Evan Neal gives up sacks. I mean, not many. I don't think he's given up many at all, actually. But you see what I'm saying? Like, it happens, right? It's football. Sometimes the other guy beats you. But a situation I saw, I was watching the Texas A&M game, one of the few games where, it's all cut up into just his reps that's available that I could find. And early in the ball game, he's got a one-on-one with Kellen Mond in the open field at the goal line, and he overplays it. And Kellen Mond has an easy bend into the end zone, scores the game's first touchdown. Didn't look great, right? It's like, man, okay, I thought this guy was for real. I thought, he knew what he was doing. And I saw a few missed tackles in that Texas A&M game. Not going to lie. But later in the game, midway through the second quarter, he's got Kellen Mond scrambling on a 3rd and goal from about the 10-yard line, and he matches him up, takes him down, squares up on him. I gotta say, like, it's common sense, right? It's common sense for all linebackers, all defenders. If you put your chest on the ball carrier and then you wrap up, it's really, really hard for them to break the tackle, no matter how good at breaking tackles that ball carrier might be, right? Now, sometimes it's a lot harder to put your chest on some athletes than others. That's understandable, right? But you put your chest on them, and you wrap up, you got a shot. You got a shot. You can't do all this, misjudging it, trying to grab him with an arm fully extended. It's not going to cut it. It's not going to do it. When Henry To'oTo'o has a textbook tackle on you, it's explosive. And it's clean. And it's definitive. You are going down. Not many guys are going to stand up with Henry To'oTo'o and stalemate with him, right? Zamir White's one of the only ones I've seen do it. And Zamir White's a powerful guy, right? Another thing that is slightly concerning, although he will not have to deal with it here at Alabama, is how quickly he sheds blocks. He's not bad at taking on blocks. He doesn't get pushed around. When he meets an offensive lineman, no matter how big or how good that I've seen, he stands toe-to-toe with him, no pun intended, and, is able to get off with relative ease. He doesn't get swallowed, right? And despite being slightly undersized, though he's more of a prototypical linebacker in the modern game, that's not a situation that he gets lost in at all. What he doesn't do particularly well from the film that I have seen is get off of that block and instantly make a play, right? Like you see defensive linemen do that a lot, where they're able to shed the block and instantly wrap up, or they're able to extend away from the lineman and put a paw on him, slow down the ball carrier, right? That's not something Henry To'oTo'o does. He's not weak. He's not a baby. He's not undersized. It's just, one of the tweets I put out in my film breakdown, Jay Harrison OTE, he eats up this pulling guard, meets him at the line, actually gets some push on the guard, and then CJ Spiller. And then Isaiah Spiller bounces inside to Toto's side of where he took the block on, and Toto didn't touch him. Didn't reach out, didn't even seem to notice that the ball carrier was there until he passed him, right? Now, Isaiah Spiller's a great running back. So like Spiller can get away with a false cut there, still picks up the first down, those sorts of things. But then you see him when his defensive line does clean up for him and does keep those guards off of him. And this is why you shouldn't be worried, is because in a 3-4 defense, that's the job of the defensive lineman in rundowns. Sure, you want penetration. Sure, as a defensive lineman, you want to make the play. But what do we always talk about with Christian Barmore is that he didn't meet his run fits a lot, right? That was always the big concern. That stuff matters because that helps out your linebackers. Your linebackers are supposed to be, these guys that are athletic enough to be sideline to sideline while being thumpers at the same time, committed to the run and able to make plays. It's the same way it was ran in Tennessee. It's the same way it's run here, except here you got 8 good defensive linemen who can all do that job for you and assist you in getting to the ball carrier clean. And that's when Henry To'oTo'o is the best player on the field, is when it's him and the ball carrier. Nothing's in between him and the ball carrier. He zones in, he closes in, and it is game over. That is his best skill. Now, as a linebacker, it kind of should be your best skill. You should be way better at that than pass coverage every day of the week, right? But that's almost an old way of thinking, right? Because he doesn't do excellent in pass coverage. He is good in pass coverage. He's better in zone than he is in man. But I mean, Christian Harris used to be a defensive back himself. He's not a great pass coverage linebacker either. Good pass coverage linebacker, not great. Remember, this is something that a lot of folks don't understand. This is not Madden, where you're from the offense's point of view and you can see where these guys sit down in zones, right? Or you can see where backs are going to break, what their potential breaks are because of the perspective, right? This is a real football game. You've only got your 2 eyes between your ears, right? That's all you've got. That's all you've got. So when these guys sit down in zones and you're reading a quarterback's eyes, which is what you do in zone defense, you tend to, you have to lean towards the side that the quarterback is looking, unless you're going up against one of the best. Then you got to commit to what you know. But because more often than not, he's looking at his targets, right? He's looking where he's going to throw. He ain't no Patrick Mahomes in the SEC East, right? That's how those situations unfold. It's not ineptitude. It's not ignorance. It's not a lack of ability. It's because the offense is always at an advantage. Always. They know what play they're running. They know where they're going. They know what they're doing depending on the coverage, all those sorts of things. So what I've seen from To'oTo'o is an incredible athlete that knows what his job is, does his job well, and sometimes the advantages of the offense is what beats him in coverage. It's not him. One of my favorite things to see out of Henry To'oTo'o, though, is when he's got a blitz. Talking about that closing speed, when he sees a lane to the ball carrier, and it's nasty, right? He's the same way when he blitzes. And I know it's a similar skill set, but to come in and close in on the quarterbacks the way he does, the example I used was against Missouri. I believe it was in 2019 where the quarterback, is rolling out a little bit. The running back looks like he might go up for a route, but instead tries to block a blitzing defensive back. And no doubt, it was obvious To'oTo'o's responsibility is that running back stops the block, and he headhunts the quarterback and causes an incomplete pass, almost gets the sack, right? But the closing speed, when you can see a linebacker's wheels turn and recognize what's going on, but you realize that he does that in a split second, it's so impressive. And it displays somebody with an incredible IQ of not only the defense, but the game itself, and pairing, your responsibilities with what you're good at as a football player and making them mesh within the situation. It's so impressive. It's so impressive. So all this to say is that you've got a guy who knows his responsibilities, knows how to be a great leader, is a smooth and ultra explosive athlete, and you pair it all together, you've got a great football player. He's not infallible. No football player is. And I could sit here and I could just sing praises about all the things he does great and only point out, positive plays. And it's a lot easier to do that with Alabama players because they're at Alabama and everybody else around them is doing their job. Well, at Tennessee, that wasn't the case for him. He didn't have his defensive linemen doing their job. Here at Alabama, he will. So he's going to be set to make a lot of plays. Be excited for Henry Toto in 19 days. Who do you want on quarterback spy with De'Aaron King? Who better than Henry Toto? Nobody. The Jay Barker Show is coming up next, noon to 2. Ryan Fowler returns for the game, 2 to 6. Tied tonight from 6 to 7. Alabama football practice tonight. I'll be there with J.R. Moore. We'll have some news for you at Tide109.com. Keep it locked in right here for your home for Alabama Crimson Tide Sports. Tide 100.9. See you tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to Off the Edge.
Can't tell you how proud I am of our players, our team.
Join us every Monday from 8 to 10 and Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and the Tide 100.9 app.